Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra,
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people.
associated with the creation
Or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked.
and sometimes what didn't,
You will also hear very personal experiences.
and insights that would trigger your thoughts.
And inspire you to do even greater things.
Takes a hell of a lot of passion and commitment to make it all work.
Passion and commitment, something that you will hear throughout this conversation with Pravin Gandhi, a pioneer in the IT industry. With over 50 years in the industry, Pravin is known nowadays for his angel investing and mentorship of entrepreneurs. What you may not know is that his association with the industry started as a software professional. In his journey over the years, you will hear about spotting opportunities, wanting to solve other people's problems, and dreaming big. Listen on. Welcome to the Software People Stories, Praveen. With a long and pioneering string of contributions to the IT industry, I may not be able to articulate your journey like you could. May I request you to share your origin story to start this conversation?
Thanks for being here. Thanks for having me. Well, if I have to talk about my journey as an IT professional, it was essentially quite by accident that when I came back from the US, I had really no idea what I wanted to do. And but since I had learned something about computers and programming in the year 63 to 67, I thought that I would try to stay connected with that. So, first thing I did was to join TCS as a programmer. And I was one of the first 100 employees of TCS.
Wow.
This was before Mr. Kohli's time. This was before Mr. Kohli joined. Then I tried to do some 1401 programming, and I realized that it is not something that excites me. Then I changed jobs to another service provider called Mafatlal Services and became a systems analyst. There, I had a modicum of success, being able to successfully program a payroll and leave management system for a textile industry, which in itself had some complication of its own. But overall, after 2 years in that organization was not very forward looking, etc. I also was getting bored of doing programming or working with a technology that wasn't very exciting. I wanted to do something different, and I got an opportunity to move to Delhi and join Coca-Cola Export Corporation in their operations research organization. And since I had done industrial engineering, I had done OR as one of my topics. So I then joined. Then I realized again as to why OR was, without computing assistance, OR had very little meaning, and you couldn't do something with, if anybody remembers what a facet machine was, to do calculations using facet, it was just not something that I enjoyed. So then I moved on within the organization in the sales and marketing of Coca-Cola, and where the job was to manage all the bottlers in the country for Coca-Cola, and which is where I thought I had found. I think that I found my calling, which was in sales and marketing. I discovered that I had an ability to create great equations with the customers and so on and so forth. And I did my learning on the job on what is sales and what is marketing, etc., etc. So I had a reasonable. I think I had a pretty good success rate at Coca-Cola. But then Mr. George Fernandez came and decided that Coca-Cola was not good for us. So Coca-Cola closed, and so we all had to leave the organization. I kind of left a little earlier, but so I came back and to Bombay, and with really no idea of what I'm going to do. But it turned out that a family friend was representing a company called Tektronix in the US, and they used to sell instrumentation.
Okay.
And they had just introduced a computerized testing system. And in that organization, I mean, in his company, in his talent pool, there was nobody who understood computers. And at least I knew how to spell computers. So I figured that I can join that company as one of the promoters. And that's how Inditron was born, to try and figure out how I can help them in their computerized automation system, but use that leverage to get distributorship of digital equipment in India.
Okay.
And all that worked out. And we started in 1972, went on to become quite one of the most successful IT companies, because it was the state of the art product at that time. It was a new kid on the block, great technology. And of course, there was no computing allowed for the commercial businesses, because, there was the belief in the Nehruvian philosophy that computers displace jobs. So most of the computing that was allowed was in the R&D space, science R&D space, and that itself was completely under the wing of the government.
Okay.
So all the labs, etc., defense labs, space labs, so on and so forth. So that's how I began my journey of selling computers, and build an organization that became pretty large for those standards. And in 1984, our then Prime Minister, Rajiv Gandhi, decided that I think we were living too much in the dark ages, and decided to open up the space for commercial computing as well, which actually didn't really happen till 1988. But then he set up a department of electronics and all that. And I can write a book on what it means to deal with a government organization, to be able to participate in tender processes and so on and so forth. But I think we as a company, both me and my colleague, were, I would say, very deft salesmen. So what we figured out, that the best way to not have the tendering process hinder us too much, our goal was to basically send to the end user, whose request went to DOE, Department of Electronics, and then they floated a tender, and somehow figure out a way to make sure that we were the only potential supplier. So
That's creating the
that was
pull.
creating the pull. And and I think we were generally honest salespeople. I mean, there was no hidden agenda. We had very good personal relationships with people. So we were not salesmen in the guys who go on a golf course and convert a sale. We were genuinely there to help
Solving business problems.
help the consumer, the customer. So
Okay.
I was, I mean, I remember my first sale was in 1974 to ISRO. And that is when they bought a PDP-11 to be the ground station for the eventual satellite that they were going to send.
Wow.
And of course, none of us knew anything about telecommunication, etc. But, with the support of US Digital, we were able to come up with the right configuration, and rest is history, that they became our primary customer for many of the computing environment. And we were prevalent in all the government labs and in the DRDOs of the country. To cut it short a bit, then so we were, very enviable in the space of scientific computing.
Okay.
It was never considered a rock star in commercial computing. Because
Okay.
there was IBM.
Mm.
IBM was synonymous with, and when the economy opened up to import, they were obviously willing to sell their not so latest, but somewhat latest technology. So it was a hard call to see how we can compete with IBM. And I think
Okay.
thankfully, because IBM was too arrogant, we were able to. But the big thing was advantage for digital was that they were extremely fast machines. So the technology was very superior in terms of speed,
Mhm.
not so great in software,
Okay.
whether it be a COBOL compiler or anything else. They just, I think, were not focused on that market. But we had to, in order, if you wanted to compete in this country. So we were very lucky to have sold our first large computer, which was IBM 370 and more, to Bajaj Auto.
Okay.
So I think the first installation of its kind in commercial computing space in India. Now, rolling back a bit in terms of some of the challenges we had, when we decided to experiment with a nuclear bomb, the government of US clamped down on sale of technology
Mm.
to India. And this, I think, was, remember right, I forget. But anyway, so at which point we were sort of very, revenue dried up because we couldn't import the latest computers, or nobody could.
Okay.
So at which point we decided, and this is the quality I think one should look at in almost all entrepreneurs, that how do you pivot? How do you can you be nimble about survival? So which is the time, and there was also at the same time PCs were becoming prominent, very expensive, but that was the advent of and digital did not really have any great personal computer solution, and they were very expensive.
Okay.
So at which point, what we did was to tie up with a manufacturer and did two things. One, we had them make PCs for us, which we sold under the Inditron brand. And we also got an agreement done to import the lowest end of PDP-11, which was available on a single board processor,
Okay.
and then do system integration and be able to sell it as an indigenous product, because that was a requirement of the government of India. So we put that product up for sale, and I must say that this was how we actually managed to reutilize our human capital in giving them different products to sell. So,
Okay.
all that continued. I think we were once the PCs and HCLs and Wipros were in the play, we were the fourth largest PC supplier and continued to be largest supplier in the mid-range, that is the PDP-11 type of computers. So all that culminated into a reasonably large company at that time. And 1988, Digital, in its wisdom, decided that they want to come themselves into India,
Okay.
and which is where they had proposed a joint venture, and there were other claimants or other partners they were looking at, such as Nelco, which was Ratan Tata's baby, kind of first love in the electronic space.
Mm.
But because of our association and our relationships, we won that deal, and we started a joint venture and went public at the same time.
Okay.
This was in 1988. So that was the culmination of my computer related journey. The question was, software was never of value, because
Yeah.
not only did we understand, or the Indian managers understand, nor did the government understand, because we were of the belief that we are very smart people and we can develop everything here ourselves, so we don't
Mm.
need to reinvent software. And which is, I think, the basic reason for undervalue of software. Now, and I would like to hazard a guess that even today, if you had a product which was locally made, as against something that comes from Microsoft, you would still not even get 1/10 of the value. So it may be
Okay.
the best because, there is the brand. And
Mhm.
also, I mean, I don't think that we really knew. I think we understood how to make, I mean, how to develop a product, but I don't think that we ever knew how to productize it and be
Okay.
able to sell, support, etc. for a piece of software. So, and I think to a great extent, this mindset still continues, but it's more now of, because it's open economy and you have a choice to get something that is has a proven track record. Why would I want to try out something local which may have challenges of support and features, etc., etc.? So you, in order to compete, then you sort of ended up making the price lower, and that made you basically compete in a segment where the large multinationals couldn't or wouldn't compete in. So, and hence that would mean all the SME segment. But it's still a struggle to sell. The sales cycles are extremely long as far as systems products or large application products are concerned. So anyway, so that's kind of my journey with computing. I mean, I can relate to you many horror stories of many overnight work at Delhi to be able to prepare proposals for the Department of Electronics and the processes that we had to go through to succeed. But again, it was also about our relationship with the people at Department of Electronics. But as you know, how public servants are, they have to appear to maintain impartiality. So, we went through, we would be made to wait. We called at 11 o'clock for discussion on the tender and would have to wait till 6 o'clock in the evening. And all the other bidders, competitors, we would all be sitting there chatting away and not knowing when we would be called. So you will miss lunch, dinner, I mean, lunch at least for sure. So those were the trials and tribulations. But it was, at the end, it was fun because we succeeded.
Yeah, that is really nice. But then, from the days of so much of patience, or at least not getting frustrated, irritated, and then waiting for all these meetings, to a time when you're on the other side, you're mentoring entrepreneurs, you're investing, where everybody wants to move fast, that
Yes.
impatience.
Yes.
How do you see that change happening?
No. I
Or
mean,
how do
I
you
was
accept
no,
that
no.
change?
I was never a lazy entrepreneur. We had to do what we had to do. I'm just saying that the other party. So you had to also develop patience to be able to survive in that time, which was between till about the mid 80s.
Okay.
After which, yeah, of course, I mean, decisions in this country always take a long time. So you had to learn your. But by that time, I mean, we had built a large enough organization. So there were people who were handling it. I thought that we had built a pretty decent organization. So I mean, I was always a taskmaster. In terms of time, my father had, he was even worse. I mean, one of the worst time managers. I should say the other way. He was so particular on time
Uh-huh.
that we were scared even to be a minute late
Okay.
if he had asked us to go anywhere and we were a minute late.
Hmm.
So time is. I mean, people still complain that I get to, in meetings or whatnot at the time I'm told to come.
Hmm.
Many people don't show up.
Yeah.
and it bugs the hell out of me.
Hmm. Yeah, my
And
question is more from see, there are a lot of entrepreneurs, at least in Bangalore, meet a lot of them, or aspiring entrepreneurs, I would say, who think that I will start up today and then in another year and a half, maybe 2 years, I want to become a unicorn.
yeah, I mean, to me again, I don't want to belittle unicorns because I don't even think unicorn is a measure of success. It's the longevity and sustainability of a company that is that to my mind is success. I mean, this is the I think effect of venture capital, who
Mm,
themselves want to make things happen within 3-4 years and be able to exit and move on.
mm,
So partly there is the pressure from the investors to grow fast, and the entrepreneurs, the aspiring entrepreneurs, having seen such great value creation, whatever that value is, but they all want to become unicorns. Now, I think people have to realize that if you build a stable company, your day will come.
mm,
And because to be a unicorn, also, you must also learn how to play the game, venture capital game. You have to learn what turns them on, what metrics that you will show that will get you more money.
mhm.
For example, I mean, if I, as a mentor, I've never understood this business model of market share
Mhm.
at any cost, at
Mm.
all capital cost. And I don't even invest in companies that have that as a goal. And
Okay.
also, mainly we are early stage investors. So we never have the capital anyway to make them get market share at whatever cost that the VC may want. But some of it is, I some people accuse me of being cynical. But we had an investment which we sold in Redbus, which is a Bangalore-based company, and it
Yeah.
was a company that was doing well, making profits, and it was unique in its space.
Right.
One investor came along and gave us some price which I had not even imagined I would get.
Mhm.
That's the game. But anyway, having said that, within, and then the promoter moved on and so on and so forth. Within 3 months of their acquisition, they were they were giving cashbacks and coupons if you bought tickets.
Mm.
Now, the entrepreneur who sort of had moved on was wondering. We were just having casual conversation. Yeah, this guy is buying a ticket. Why do I have to give him something back?
Mhm. Yeah.
So, but that again, I leave that to the judgment. And there is just too much capital to deploy, and they want to make sure that with the use of that large capital pool they have, they make sure that there is nobody else in the marketplace, because over time many clones had come up to with Redbus, like Redbus. But if you have enough money, if you throw enough money at the marketplace, then you sort of more or less own the market. Then the second guy, the third guy will either die or do whatever. So
Yeah.
that's the nature of the game, which I have never understood. So I have never participated in later stage funding. I'm not a. I am a company builder, not a financial analyst.
Mm, very nice. So this also nicely segues into one question that I normally ask all the guests
Mm.
is in terms of advice. Normally it is about people who are trying to consider IT as a career, but also nowadays with all this pandemic plus other things where a lot of mid-career people are
Mm.
also wondering, should I continue? Is there a career? Should I try to venture out? So what should they consider? And do you think IT, of course, it's a very broad area, still offers opportunities for people to come and grow?
Of course, I mean, there's plenty of opportunity. The point is again that do you have, let me step back a little bit, and then when year 2000, when I started my first venture fund, and there was the Silicon Valley boom and there was a lot of money available. I remember that a lot of the career MNC professionals, in the 30s and 40s, decided that this is, perhaps great way to make money. And they all started to be entrepreneurs. And very quickly they found out that if making money is their only objective, they will not survive because they didn't understand how to work out of a room with 4 people when they had their cabins and they had secretary and when they had a driver and etc. etc. So to my mind, the right age today this is not a generalization, but the right age for somebody to launch into entrepreneurship is around 30 to 35.
Okay.
There are people who are, 27, 28 and have done well for themselves. But it takes a hell of a lot of passion and commitment to make it all work.
Mm.
So one quality, obviously, and this is a cliched statement, that yes, you have to have the passion. But what that passion by itself cannot make you a unicorn, nor anything else for that matter, because you don't have the skills to build an organization, which is why you need mentors who will guide you as to the right time to get the right human capital in the company to be able to build the company properly. You can't be selling from 9 to 6 and then worrying about HR problems in the night. I mean, you may have to do all that, but that's when you are small, 5 people company. And where HR problems don't exist because you have the passion to take care of the HR problem. When you become bigger, one of the biggest advisory work that I had to do with the investee companies that I have, that when COVID struck, what do you do? How do you convince people to stay on at lower salaries? Build that passion that, now, you've been here for so long, I need. And it's very important to build that loyalty in the organization. Some will leave, but some majority of the people, if you communicate to them properly, display your own commitment to the cause, there is no reason why people will quit. If the company is not making headway in the market, then it's also important. And we used to ask whenever we invested in a young entrepreneur, two things. One is that, is he smart enough to know when it's time to quit? That is, that continue to beat a dead horse. And so at that point, whether he pivot or continue to beat a dead horse, or be open to realize that maybe he or she is not the right person to lead the organization.
Okay.
So to be open to allow somebody else who has better credentials beyond just technology to build an organization. And I think people forget that just pure technology is not sufficient. You have build an organization that is sustainable.
Yeah, that's very interesting because we also come across this in many of our coaching situations with organizations and teams. How do you get a person to let go of something that has been a passion project or they've been so deeply involved in?
Yeah, I mean, you demonstrate to him, you have to work with him. Is there something else you can do? Obviously, he has passion, but he's also a smart guy, right? I mean, technically smart guy. So obviously, the numbers will speak for themselves. Right? If you are burning money every day or every month, you have to be smart enough to see that the end is near. Now, do you see it early enough to be able to pivot?
Yeah.
There will be people who are not willing to give up. Naini, I want to. That, I mean, there is no solution. You can offer them, work them through alternative options, but if they are just hell-bent on continuing the way, and that's also another quality that you have to learn to assess when you are investing in a company.
Okay.
That are open to advice. Either they feel that they are God's gift to mankind, and it'll never work. And it has happened. We have shut down companies and taken losses and so on and so forth. So it's often this is, unless you have a lot of capital and hence you can murder everybody else around you, it is like Las Vegas. No? You take 100 bets and maybe 2 will succeed.
Okay.
So, I mean, there are many studies which tell you that out of 10, one can give you, if you are a smart investor, one can give 1 or 2 can give you 15x return, 30% will give you mid-range 5x return, and the rest will die or almost die. So you're betting on human capital, and some obviously the idea that you believe has a market.
Yeah, sure.
So having said that, let me also tell you something else. After my stint with digital, and then 1992, they took larger ownership, and hence I had no interest in working for somebody in US and reporting and all that. So we all of us sort of got out of the company. And then I was at a loss again. I was wondering what to do, and which is when this bug, and that sort of relates to the question about Indian software, started a software company with some talented people who, from ITC and other people. And we got very good talent who also believed that SAP is not a solution to everything. You can build an equivalent SAP.
Yeah.
So, but that experience for me, I mean, we lost money and we shut it, but that experience was very revealing that, while we did a lot of engineering and good development work and all that, we just didn't have people who understood systems and market need. So it was almost all the development was coming from a technology perspective. So you are always in the constant need for making changes.
Okay.
And on the other side, you had what we used to then call them EDP managers, who were not very, brilliant and are also not very stable with the organizations that they were in. And, what you ended up doing was that somebody else spoke. First of all, they have done you a favor by agreeing to buy something local. So you were at their beck and call, change this, change that, and so on and so forth. And lo and behold, while everything is now finally getting into place, EDP manager changes. And he wants the display differently, and he wants, so we never were able to productionize the offering. He talked a good language, he talked the right lingo, and we were able to convince Bayer India and some reasonably big size corporations to, but it was a pain. It took much longer than what we had said it would, and so on and so forth. And of course, there was never enough money to pay for all that. And like how if Microsoft says that, okay, you want this change, it will cost you $5,000, and you shut up and pay. Here, nobody pays you anything more. You can have their steps signed off and all that. None of that had any. So, that was an experiment that taught me as to why software. I mean, there were many causes, but we just didn't have the skill to create complete products because I don't think we understood the environment enough to build a complete product. That is not to say there will not be revisions and add-ons and all that, but to the extent that it must be almost a plug-and-play product, never was.
Okay.
That was my tryst with software. And we don't buy, I think all corporations, at least not now, but at least till year 2005 or so, 2010, that everybody had a largish in-house computer departments.
Okay.
And everybody felt that, oh, he's charging me 5 lakhs of rupees. I can do it with 3-man people for 2 lakhs of rupees. And the argument would end there, or either you will sell it for 2 lakhs and then, regret it for the rest of your life. And they will never be able to do what they say they will, what they thought they will.
Yeah.
So it's, it's all beginning to change because of the fact that, we are now in nation age where we are seeing people, and when productivity has become more important than it ever was, people are willing to experiment.
Yeah, more in terms of subscription models or user-based pricing and all that.
Yeah. And, even the buyers are willing to say, okay, I can put these 3 things together I will get Salesforce, I'll get this, and put up a solution which I don't have to necessarily develop in-house.
Mm.
It's interesting that, State Bank of India chairman
Mhm.
claims that their digital app, all-in-one YONO
Yeah.
app, is worth $25 billion.
Mm.
And I was just reading a review that while it is all thing in one app, it's the most difficult app to traverse through. Okay. So whether it's worth $25 billion or not, I don't know. But I don't know who will buy it because it's a very specialized app.
Yeah.
But there is this whole plan of Tata's to create a super app to put all their offerings under one app, and Walmart wants to put $25 billion or some such large number. So we'll see when it happens. But we are yet, I think that our GST implementation, there are examples of large companies like Infosys or whatnot have not been able to successfully implement complex systems. So, we succeed as coders, systems analysts and all that once the specifications are defined, the buyer. So,
but nowadays you are seeing, at least the Aadhaar implementation or the railway reservations.
Railway was in our time. Yes, that was a good job. But, no, I'm saying, this is the whole problem. I think we get satisfied with too little. It's a 1.3 billion people country. We can't be satisfied with 3 successes. Call ourselves software power and all that. That's not really. I think it's not true. We have miles to go to become a software power. Yeah, you may be China can be a assembly power that, and they have the electronic components, and we are the software assembly country. Where, of course, I'm not saying that things are not changing. Sure, that there are a lot of stuff that is happening within the large TCS does not become what it is by becoming only a people supplier. But, I don't think that we can say ourselves that, we are like a European country or US for that. In terms of their computational thinking, I think anyway, that's an education system challenge.
Overall, takeaway for me is that there's still hope and there's a lot of opportunity in software and related IT, whether you're considering a career or whether you want to shift and do something in this space.
Yeah, except that, you have to know what you want to do.
Right.
It should be not a replica of what somebody else is doing and say, I'll do it better, but be innovative and find, something that is missing and do it.
Yeah.
You can't be the 10th player and succeed.
Okay.
You can have, you can have the best solution. Let's say if you have an HR solution, you can have the best solution, but then you must have the money and the smartness to beat the entrenched people.
Yeah.
So, there is plenty of opportunity. Whether there is enough talent available to do all that, that's a question that needs to be thought about. Because, for example, today there is a significant shortage in people who are really good at digital marketing. Different, what your websites will look like. They are all improving, but it's a whole composite package of the digital world that we need to embrace.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but obviously there is hope. There is hope for sure.
Yes. That's very
my
reassuring.
regret is that there is not enough Indian capital available to nurture that.
Yeah. On that note, Pravin, I think we have just enough time for this conversation. Many points that you said in themselves would probably warrant longer discussions. Like you said, you have a lot of stories about many of these things. We will probably catch up some other time.
Okay.
Thanks, Pravin.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Malavika for promoting the Software People stories.
If you like this episode,
Please subscribe on your favorite podcast client.
And spread the word in your network.
if you'd like to share your story,
Contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.